Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the NDA podcast. I'm Rob D. Today, I will be working on things I cannot share, but behind me, we'll be playing art that I've done in the past. Today, I'm going to be showing you coloring that I did for Transformers G.I. Joe First Strike crossover at IDW. These were some covers I did back in 2017. So go ahead and just hit play there. You'll see me working in Photoshop. This is an older way of working. I used to sort of fill everything up with spot colors and then airbrush in individual ones. It's actually how I used to work in t-shirts. So I've gotten much faster. But at this time, when I was doing this, I was trying to replicate a bit of that 90s Cod Barrett Cuts and Grads look, right? So rather than focus on color picking and stuff, I focused more on lasso tool building at the time. So you can see there, it's me airbrushing in masks in color using adjustment layers. Pretty amazing, huh? Pretty fun stuff. So. Alrighty. Where did I put my pen? You know, I really should look for my Cintiq pen before I start the stream. There we go. I rather like the way that this cover came out. I was trying to go for like sort of a chunky, fun toy look for everyone. But I was told at the end of the day that my cover sold the least amount of variants that year for any title. So you could say I chose poorly, I suppose. Oh well. You know, what can you do? I'm gonna get to work. Chats are open. If you guys want to chat, talk, blah 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 blah, just let me know. I'll be here. So sorry. And rain. Turn that off. Take that mud. Mud. Yeah, that works pretty good. Whoa. Too big. Let's go ahead and take that off. I was talking to my buddy on my headset earlier today, so forgot I was wearing it. I gotta wear the headset when I drive. And people go, "Oh man, look like an old fuddy duddy." I'm like, yeah, but it works. Can't hear anything in those earpieces that go in your ear. I need like, I got this trucker one. Works great. I don't care if I look stupid or not. Who are you trying to press sitting in your car? Yeah. Alrighty, so we got this. Turn this on. Merge that. And this is me coloring physical line art that I drew, which I just found to be a real pain in my ass. So that's why I tend to do digital now and then traditional after the fact. Yeah, don't get rid of that. Hue, colors. Let's minimize that. Hey, what's up, Gary? There's a Mario game. Yeah, I put games behind me now while I'm playing. You know, while I'm working. So, right, keep it fun. Jonesy, do you think you and Jason will continue to participate in the Making Star Wars show? I heard Jason is starting a new job. That's up to Jason, man. I think if they were making Star Wars that Jason cared about, he'd probably still be doing one at night. But right now, man, they're making Hallmark Star Wars. So, you know. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's up to Jason. It's not up to me. Yeah, Gary, when I'm working on Spawn, like I'll put on, like if I have a Spawn video behind me, I'll put on the Spawn game from the Super Nintendo. It's always fun. That's always fun. Thanks. Yeah, I did this one for IDW. These were some covers I did for this thing called First Strike. It was like a G.I. Joe Transformers bit. And these covers sold horribly. They were like, we're selling covers of the year. I'm like, okay, sorry. So that was about the end of that. Apparently Star Wars fans don't like the Pat Lee or chunky characters. So I made a bad call on that one, I guess. Yeah. My art generally doesn't go over well with comic book fans. I mean, were this 1995, it'd be a whole nother issue, right? But by and large, they tend to just complain. Doesn't stop me, you know, but you know what I mean, like. I appreciate it, Gary. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, after this, you know, I gave it a few months, and then I got the Game Informer gig, and then I ended up on Crash, and so that worked out for a while. Spyro and Crash, and then now I'm on the Spawn thing, so you never know. I mean, but I really have no idea how sales are going, and ultimately that's what this comes down to is sales, you know. They don't really tell me, you know. So, but you know me, man, like I just keep sticking with it. I'm like, if I thought this looked like garbage, I'd be doing something else, but maybe I don't know, maybe people are just maybe they'll figure it out at some point. My favorite is when people think Scotty Young drew the Spawn stuff. I had one guy in the comments the other day was like, telling Todd, you got to make toys out of these Scotty covers. I'm like, Scotty did not draw these covers. You know, and I don't know if you looked, like, doesn't really draw like me either. Like, but that's kind of just how the industry is, man. It's like, this is kind of like a Pat Lee, you know, Optimus Prime, and then I tried something different with the G.I. Joes. I mean, I could have done a cartoonier, lankier, you know, cartoony, lanky Scarlet, you know, but I went with chunky boots. I thought it would be different. Oh, it was different. Yeah, it was different. Should not have done that. But it's fine, man. Like, I'll find my audience like right before I die. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, I'm 60. I found my audience. Yay. Gary says audience log spawn kills reminds me of the Invader. Yeah. No, that was intentional. I wanted to do. They were kind of going for that Scotty Marvel Babies look before, and I was like, I want to go for 90s Nickelodeon, you know? So it's got Zim, it's got Ren and Stimpy in there, and then when the superhero stuff shows up, it's got, you know, just my own take on that sort of thing, you know? You know, I mean, if there's any one artist that might have an influence on that area, it might have been Miglia, but I mean, I don't think I'm drawing anything like Carlos Miglia. It's just, you know, like, so, you know, but yeah. I was hoping for more of an R-rated bit with the book, you know, like, but I think, you know, if we do another one, I think we'll get more R-rated stuff in. I was like, you guys pitch it as R-rated. Where's the R-rated? Fairyland has more violence than this. It's ridiculous. No, it's supposed to be. I just don't. I don't know. I don't know how that works out, and I don't want to start calling names. You know, I just know, like, I was like, hey man, like, at some point I did go, maybe this is more violent. You know, so it's a little tricky. You know, I can only pitch. I don't get to write. I don't write the book. You know. I think they saw the Easter eggs and they're like, Rob could draw these Easter eggs. And I'm like, yeah, but maybe. I don't want to get myself in trouble. I'm going to get myself in trouble. You know. I'm going to shut up. Book's fun either way, right? It's fun. Fun first, and then we'll work everything else out. So I watched the first episode of the new Tales of the TMNT cartoon. Hey, what's up, Gamal? And it's good. It's not as good as DuckTales, the DuckTales reboot. The animation's cool. The fight scenes are pretty awesome. The voice work is fantastic. I'll say this: the kids they got to play the turtles, it's the same ones from the Mutant Mayhem movie. They're excellent. And it's not bad writing by any means. It's just it's not at the same level as say DuckTales. I would say this though. It uses a limited animation. It's closer to an animatic, you know. I think just to get all the crazy fights in. But I think it might be a little too limited at times. Like we're talking like sometimes it's like 8 frames a second, you know, maybe even 6. Like, and it didn't give me headaches, but it did bug my wife. Like she was getting it. I'm used to looking at like animatics and storyboards, so it didn't bother me as much, but I'm thinking maybe they do 30% less fights and up the frame count a little bit. It's a little too limited. And I get that's their style. I mean, they're very dynamic fights. They're very good, but it's a little too... I think it's a little too limited. So I don't know. I'm gonna watch another episode. I can't say. I don't think the wife's up for it. I gotta watch it on my own. So. But the kids that do the voice are extremely. I mean, they're probably the best voice cast for the Turtles ever. I'll give them that for certain. You know? Did not like the theme song, if you can call it that. Like, I really got to stress, cartoons need to have a very catchy, easy to, you know, listen to theme song. This techno weird babble nonsense it's got to stop. Recognizable, catchy tunes, man. I just don't understand this. You know, this like just weird music sound shit that I don't get it at all. I mean, anime gets it, you know? Mid flat. Oh, snap. No point doing that. Where'd I put my borders? Borders. All right, there we go. And do the sound effects. Jonesy says, do you have any life advice in relation to becoming confident in yourself? You're a true... I'm a true role model. Hold on. I don't give in to anyone if you disagree. I want to make sure we... Disagreeing is not the same as I think I'm always right. Well, I want to be very clear about this. I've changed my mind many times in the past. You know, I think the trick is when you've come around on something to own up to it. You know, I think that's very important. Well, I'm a true role model. It's Jonesy. It's trying to draw here, man. What are you doing? I've tried to tell. As for having an opinion and going with, it's not so much like, okay, how do I say this? A lot of art is made on making decisions. It's really quite simple. Making decisions, you know, and you got to be able to make your decisions, and you have to make them not just confidently, but they got to be thought out, you know. So when someone comes to you, why did you do this? Why did you spend our money doing this? You can explain, here's why I did it. You know, it wasn't just because I thought it would be cool, or, you know, or sometimes it is, but I mean, usually I have a pretty well laid out reasoning for how I arrive at certain things, you know. You have to be able to justify your decision making, and you have to be confident. I mean, build up to trust that when they hire you, they're trusting you to make decisions more than executing things. You know, you have to be able to take them to execution, but you have to be able to make decisions. And so I just think, like, when we're in the fan space and we're all having a conversation about something, I'm going with the decisions I would make if I were sitting in a room, you know, with the company to make them. Like, and I have sat in those rooms and had those discussions, you know. So I know what that's like. I know what it's like to go into an office or to a company and pitch your idea outright, to pitch yourself, to pitch your project and get it approved, you know, and get paid. So once you kind of go through a few of those moments, or if you do that enough, the confidence just comes from you don't show up to those meetings unless you have a take, you know, or you have a reasoning. Now, at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, it didn't work, you know. And like this cover you see here, I had a take. Financially, it did not work at all. So, but I don't think it had anything to do with the quality of the work. It had to do with, one, comic books are different in that you kind of need a name to move limited or variant items. You need a name. In order to get a name, you got to do something of noteworthy, blah, 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 blah. And that, you know, that can, there's no one way to do that. There are cartoony artists, there are realistic artists. People get there how they get there. There's no one way to do it. I have not gotten there. You know? So I just keep at it. I just keep at it. But I know that I didn't turn in bullshit. I gave them a good product. If it doesn't move, then it just didn't. Either it wasn't marketed very well, or it just wasn't its time and place. Wasn't its time and place. You know? It does happen. You can have a great thing and it not work when it came out. It was a wrong time and place. Furiosa is a great movie. Did not work for its time and place, you know. The Iron Giant made no money when it came out. I stand by Disney's Atlantis and Emperor's New Groove. They financially did not do what they were hoping those films would do. Same with Treasure Planet. Like, it does happen. You can make a good thing that goes nowhere. But it's not going to be like, I didn't know what I was doing. I guess maybe, you know. Ultimately, you can only control what you put into something. I mean, when Zim came out, I mean, Zim never did the numbers SpongeBob did. I think it's a better cartoon. But what can you do, you know? I think it's a far better cartoon than SpongeBob. But But if things don't sell, you can't keep going. That's kind of how the game works. Right, Gary? So it's like, I put the fault at the blame of Nickelodeon, just not promoting it right or getting into the right whatever, you know? Or knowing that the merch will probably make up for the lack of ratings, you know? Like, maybe you won't be as popular on the ratings, but if that merch sells, what does it matter? Like, what's paying for all this? I don't know, you know? Like when we were on Crash 4, Crash 4 was the highest rated game Toys for All had ever done, ratings wise, you know? But, you know, it didn't sell what they were hoping. At the end of the day, it sold 5 million copies. It didn't sell 5 million copies right away. But, that should have been more than enough. I mean, back in the day, 100,000 copies was enough to go gold. So I don't know what their expectations are, you know. Too kind, Gary. But I think the more we draw like ourselves, the more, you know, you're going to alienate some people, right? That's just the way it is. But you used to be every cartoon had its own look. Bobby's World had a look, you know, and The Tick had a look, and Freakazoid had a look, and Animaniacs had a look. And some of them had cohesive looks if they were in the same universe, like the Batman cartoons or the Disney afternoons, you know, Darkwing Ducks, Tailspin stuff, DuckTales. But then they all just started looking the same because, you know, trend research comes out and they're like, this is popular, so we'll look like that. And or this is easier for production. We can make 10 times more if we do this. And it's like, you know, I don't know. Like, remember Thundercats Roar? You know, I thought, yeah, it's a cartoony art style, but had the writing just been better, I think it could have worked really well. The problem was people hadn't had a Thundercats cartoon in God knows how long, so they thought that was going to replace Thundercats in general, right? So it was like, I thought that art style would have worked great for Ghostbusters, you know? But it's like, you got to also make the serious version of those cartoons so people know, you know, that you can make a Teen Titans Go and a Teen Titans show simultaneously. You don't have to have one or the other, you know? So, a little bit of a 50-50 on that one in terms of who to blame. Fans getting a little overzealous, you know? And studios not committing to, you know, doing a serious 3 or 4 season version of a cartoon every 10 years or so, you know, if the IP warrants it, you know. Never watched it. Yeah, the writing wasn't as great, but it had serious potential. Like, some of those 80 things deserve to have like a goofier version of it because it's kind of goofy. But at the same time, you know, it's like you do got to put out a real version, quote unquote, a real version of it every now and then, you know. And it's because you never get, you gotta have balance, you know. And they just gotta be honest in the market. Hey, this is a fun version. We're working on a serious version. You're gonna get that too. Don't worry, you know. But they don't do that, you know. They just get into like fights with the fans. Well, you guys don't get it. You don't support it. And I'm like, that's a horrible version. Would I want my Goofy Spawn book to replace the main Spawn book? Are you out your freaking mind? You know? Yeah, I heard the new Terminator anime is great. You know? I just think some of that stuff too, Gary, like stuff from the 80s should be cartoons or video games. Like Terminator. I just think they should stay away from trying to make live action versions of those things. You know, like they're never going to top the original, but animation, video games, definitely room to go there, you know? 100%. Like, I would have wanted a more scarier version of Ghostbusters, something more like really like Stranger Things, where people die and shit. A little more horror with a touch of comedy on Ghostbusters, and then you could do a goofy cartoon, you know, that could be more slapsticky. So you have a cartoony Slimer to put on a shirt and make your difference up, but whatever. We've sort of all seen how that's worked out, you know. They keep going, we're like Stranger Things. We even got a Stranger Things kid in it. You're like, but it's not like Stranger Things at all. It's milquetoast. You know, like, do you want to make Hogwarts with Ghostbusters, or do you want to make Police Academy with Ghost? What are you trying to do? You know, the most untapped potential for audiences, in my opinion, is the horror audience. You know, you got girls, you got men, you got kids. I mean, they're the horror art, and you can do those on a smaller budget. So it's like, I just never understood why Marvel didn't lean into Blade and those monsters. If they had gone to the horror route, at least for a little bit, you know, there's much better crossover potential, I think, for those audiences than the YA novel, you know. You didn't hate. Yeah, I know. It's just meh. It's just meh. It's not bad, but it's not, you know, it's meh. It's like, whatever, you know. It's like it either needed to go full Police Academy, you know, like we're hiring Ghostbusters because there's too many ghosts, or it needed to go full horror, like we're gonna go travel around the country to these spots that are haunted and deal with ghosts around the country, so it's not just stuck in New York, you know. Like dealing with like Jeepers Creepers style stuff in one movie, and then like a poltergeist situation in another, and you know. Or going full, you know. But it just, I don't know. I don't know. Alright, okay. Can we stop with the damn alarms? Too many alarms today. Too many alarms. I mean, Stranger Things can kill kids, you know, some kid Ghostbusters. That being said, looking forward to Stranger Things Season 5. I think that's my most anticipated anything right now. Yeah. They still built the best damn mall I've seen in a movie since the 80s. I don't care what anyone says about that season. That mall is excellent. Hey, Gary, did you see? I gotta dig up the link. I had it and I lost it, but it was making the rounds the other day on Threads. There was like a, I don't know, there was like a episode of Unsolved Mysteries or one of these like wannabe like Twilight Zone shows in the '90s and late '80s, and they did like a Poltergeist ripoff episode set inside a Toys R Us, like a real Toys R Us. And like, they had like ghosts, and they had some chick in there trying to do like the Zelda Rubinstein bit. But it was a real Toys R Us, like from the late 80s. It looked like 89, 91, somewhere around there. May have been even 87. I can't. I can kind of tell by the bike racks, you know? Like, I thought I saw a Huffy Vortex, you know? I know. I'll dig it up, man. It was like last week. I'll have to look through my likes, and I may have sent the link to my friend. I'll dig it up. It's gonna take me like an hour, I think. You can't bookmark shit on Threads, you know? Like you could back in the day on Twitter, which is a bummer. So... But I watched the clip all the way through. I was like, man, this is a real thing. Like, Yeah, our mutual friend Gary, you know, uh, Eduardo. Uh, they were working on Stranger Things stuff, and pretty impressed by all the fake '80s stuff they got coming out, like radio stations and bumper stickers, and I'm hoping they put out like an art of for the next season, because I think they really went all out on that. Save. Let me grab the drawing. Let me grab the drawing version of the next one. Open link. Paste link. Download clip. Jonesy says Nick Pozzolato and Cary Fukunaga is your favorite Detective Season 1. This is storyline, text, political, everything just work, visually, character development, as mentioned. Yeah, I definitely think the True Detective Season 1 is the closest thing I've seen to... one of the closest things I've seen to doing something that's not a TV show and not a movie, but manages to do the best of both. You know? It's not been reproducible, though. That team hasn't been able to pull that off twice. Season 4 has been the closest thing to it. You know? I think Fargo season 1 and 2 and 3 and 5 have been pretty good. 4 was okay. It wasn't great. I had high hopes for 4 because it took place in the 20s or something, or the 30s with Chris Rock, and but wasn't as good. Downloading that, and while we're downloading that, I need to go back 2 issues and grab some textures I did previously. What issue did I do those textures in? Issue 3 has those textures. Or I could just go. It's been a while since I've used my canvas brush. And so much so, I don't remember where the hell I put it. Where did I put my canvas brush? Probably under paints. Because that's where I would put it. There we go. There we go. Oh, I can just do this now. We'll increase the texture size to 300. Turn that opacity down a little bit. There we go. I like some of it, I don't like other parts. It happens. So let's go to here and clean this up. That's better. That's better. Now I gotta clean this up. Yeah, just so much cleanup is required when I'm going over the traditional lines that it's just like digital I can keep it all clean, but it's just there's so much cleanup that it's just not. Yeah. Too much effort. That's the Final Fantasy VII piece of me. So I'm probably color sampling. I've gotten pretty comfortable with doing all this straight out now. I don't need to do any of that. But I did it the hard way for about 3 years and then figured out how to do it my way. So, you know. Sometimes it's the only way you can do it. You gotta do it the hard way for a long time, and then you can streamline. See, I was trying to do everything with lasso. That I would just paint in. Like I said, some of this stuff, I'm like, why were you doing it this way? I know why. I was trying to get that 90s cuts and grass look. You know. But now I've managed to blend that with these sort of chalk brushes and stuff, and I think it all works out for the better now. Alrighty. Where are we on this video? Oh, we're about halfway through. I'm going to take a 5-minute break and go do my squats, grab some water, and I'll be back about 5-7 minutes, somewhere around there. Video will keep playing, so you don't have to do anything. We'll just wait for this version of me to show back up. Give me a second. Hey, I'm back. All right. that's done. Now, on to these two panels. So I'm gonna get this done. Jonesy asks, as an artist, do you think it's an advantage to be curious about different things in society so you click different kind of reference file? Huh? Different things in society. I just think it's helpful as a human being to be aware of whatever. I mean, it depends on what you're trying to put in your... If you're saying, do you think you should put in, you know, social topics into your art? I mean, it depends on what you're doing. I always prefer to, you know, put a little bit of reality in what I'm doing. Somewhere, you know. But never in your face. Like in issue 1 of Spawn Kills Every Spawn, there's a scene where he's sitting at a table, depressed because his art isn't selling. Well, that was literally me at a con in 2004. And I was sitting next to Scotty Young and the Red Star guy. So in the book, I put Scotty Young to my left, and to the right, I put a Sam Max because I didn't think anyone would know what Red Star was. You know, put a Spawn Max back there. But often when I'm drawing, you have to communicate your ideas without words. Unless I was writing the script, you know? And even then, like, it kind of depends. I mean, just... I always try to find some way to make the experience relatable. Yeah, I think when he went to his room in the script, I think it was more like him just throwing a temper tantrum. But I drew all this stuff in his room to show that he was actually a fan of Spawn. So when he goes to his room, the thing he loved is like driving him nuts. Like, oh shit, even I can't get away from this, you know? And it's sort of like the boiling point. Like he's just like a real disgruntled fan, you know? You know, if I were writing Star Wars, I've said it a million times, I'd go and buy the rights to historical fiction books, you know, and put a real bit of war, human war and human experience into that story. Versus all the fake anthropology shit we got going on now. I mean, sometimes you write fluff. Like, if you're writing a Mario game, and it's not, you know, a complex story. But the trick is to have experiences that you could relate to. Moments where the characters become a little bit more human. That's why I added his little bat buddy. Like, I made that character up, you know? Because I was like, that'll give me a chance to put a bit more human reaction into the book, non-verbally, you know. Like he's generally reacting in a way that we would probably react to stuff. I always side on trying to get people to feel something, you know? And if I can sell the emotion of a scene or a setting, then I think that's more important than just the amount of things you draw. But I mean, like if I was tasked to to draw like New York, then I'm gonna go grab reference in New York and then I'll reinterpret it. I'll do building studies and shape studies, and you know, the trick with comics is you just don't have a lot of time to do that. So, do I have to have a mental knowledge of a lot of different things if I want to be creative? Yeah, you do. And I have been fortunate that my brain is dumb enough to collect a lot of stupid stuff. It's a little bit of that random trivia guy in my head, you know? I mean, in case in point, in issue 2, there's a scene at the end where there's a team tryout, right? And I had already drawn the San Diego Convention Center in issue 1 as the SpawnCon area. The exterior is the San Diego Convention Center. So I thought, as an Easter egg, what if I drew the convention center, the exterior. Essentially, it's a fantasy version of it, but it's still the convention center from the Comic-Con from the 70s when it was at the Civic Center. So it's a bit of a fantasy take on the San Diego Civic Center, you know? Now, who's even gonna bother doing that, right? You know? Am I gonna win any awards for that? No. You know? Is anyone gonna pick up on that? Probably not. You know, but that's how I get my way into it. I'm like, oh, I could do that, you know. So it's based on a real world building, and I put my own little spin on it. It's got, you know, tried to work bats and skulls into all the buildings and stuff, so you can tell it's kind of a fantasy world. It's not the really world. And then sometimes I gotta do research, like when I did the Dragon Ball piece, you know, I don't have all the Dragon Ball games memorized in my head, so I had to do a lot of research on that. And it took me the better part of 3 or 4 days to gather up all the research I needed, you know. And even then, someone's like, you forgot this, you forgot that. I'm like, I didn't forget nothing. That's all the room I had room for. Jonesy says, it helps you more than the readers in your creative process, and it's up to them whether they like it. Right. Or whether they even get any of it, I don't know. You know, but you can't say, like, when they go, oh, you're not really a fan. And I'm like, man, I've done more research than any of you. Any other artist wouldn't have put this kind of effort into it. Just being honest with you. You know? And they certainly wouldn't have, like, redrawn all the boxes. Like, I drew all that stuff, you know? Like, I pasted those images into the document, and then I redrew everything because it would look bad if you just Photoshop. They're all varying levels of quality anyway. So it's like, if I want it to look consistent, you know, and it's the same on this book. Like when I draw posters, I put the posters in, I Photoshop them in, but then I redraw them. That only kind of, and on later issues, it's even a little bit more than that because I just create a new document and draw it in there, and then I Photoshop that into the image because I have multiple scenes. But the lines need to match up with my lines, and the colors, I'll usually pop the colors more. You know, I'll use their base colors and then I'll recolor it. And I just gotta move super fast when I'm doing that because it's kind of not what I'm getting paid to do. You know, but it lets me put in, I mean, if it's a world of spawns, I need a world of spawns. I need a lot more spawns than exist in the books. You know, I need millions of spawns. You know, Super Mario spawns and blah 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 blah. And it needs to all be, you know, parody art, which means I can't use I have to create my own version of it. You know. And sometimes I have to make the design a little wonky just so it doesn't look too good. So, you know, you could say it's parody. Jaws spawn, you know? Stupid shit like that. Like, just so I have something to fill the walls, you know? Now, during like later sequences where there's fights and action taking place, there's no room for that. You just got to draw the story, you know? So it's like every now and then in the background, I can put a little reference just to kind of, you know, something for the readers to look at. Jones, yes, the difference is that you haven't seen the convention area you use. This your version becomes. Yeah, but somebody out there might get it, you know. It's there, you know. But what I like too is it helps build and layer a world of. It's a meta world. It's a world that knows it's a comic book. You know, it knows itself to an extent. You know, whether that's in the script or not, visually it's all there. You know, to me that's what an artist should be bringing to the table. Artists should be bringing something that helps expand the world beyond the written word. That there's a visual narrative happening as well, you know. I learned that in games, you know, how to tell. Basically, like when you're designing a level in Crash or something or Spyro, you want to learn to tell the story through the level design. If there's backstory, you can do a cutscene, but people tune that shit out or they'll skip it. It kind of, maybe it works once, but ideally you want to work that out through the level design, even if it's not in the script. So you would get things as you play them. It's better to experience that way that it feels more interactive. And it's not like super in your face, so you can still focus on the gameplay. And I sort of felt like I really grasped it at the end of Crash 4, and then into Crash 5. There's so many things, man. I just don't even think I can share. You know, I'm hoping that other people share stuff so I can start sharing. But I just learned how to I learned a lot of things, and then they took it all away from me. So you know, happens. So I've then tried to put what I learned into this, you know? So it's not Easter eggs for the sake of Easter eggs. It's for world building, you know? It's not, that way it's like, it's not a gimmick. It's like, it's all intentional. Nothing like accidentally appeared in the book. You know, on my end, on their end, I can't speak to it. On my end, everything's intentional. Now, will people who don't like my art really even care about that sort of thing? No. I mean, if people don't like my art, then, you know, you're not going to win them over. It's for the people that, you know. And most of them won't care. And that's why I like when I'm watching something like a Star Wars, I can tell you if that stuff is there. I can tell you if the production design team put in things, you know, you could tell the difference. And so, like, will the average fan be able to tell? No. You know. But you know something? At the same time, sometimes you notice when something's not there. You notice when something's missing. You can't put your finger on it, so it's not always the case. I mean, you might be able to articulate it, but sometimes you can tell. What's off with this? It doesn't feel the same. It feels You know, it's like an ingredient. When something's missing, you don't know what it is, but you know it's not, something's missing. And that's why I'm really wary of when I work with people, when they tell me the things that I do don't matter. Sometimes I get that. I'm not saying on this project, but I've had it in the past where like, oh, it doesn't really matter, Rob. When I hear that, I'm like, you keep saying that. Eventually, nothing's gonna matter, right? And I think it matters. So, I mean, if it was a fictional world, I would have to, just put all that stuff into, you know, the fictional world design. If it's a well-known world, I mean, if I was working on a Batman book, I wouldn't be able to put a bunch of Batman Easter eggs there. I don't know if that would work. But that wouldn't be my goal too. I'd probably have a different goal depending on the story, Not that I'd ever sit around drawing a Batman book, but radio. I might spend that kind of time on the color. I would want maybe, like, if I think about it now, I'd want the color to be somewhere between the concept art for the Batman animated series, and maybe something like an animated, like different animated project. I'd want a level of detail put into the look of everything, so it felt more artistic. I could see that, but then they'd be like, we need it tomorrow. You never get time with those projects, unless you're Mark Silvestri and you can take like a decade to draw one series. So like when we're on Crash 4, the last level design that came at us was Offbeat, which was the New Orleans ghost level. And they asked me if I wanted to help out on that because they couldn't figure out the look for it, and they were hoping to get, some people, different people on the team. They want to give us an opportunity to do different things, and I think they wanted a different, someone else to help out that could think differently. So I ended up putting together the few sketches that became the basis for the whole level, and like my theory. They had different reference art from some movies and stuff, but at the end of the day, I just said, well, in my head, I was like, Nightmare Before Christmas, what if we got to see what Christmas would look like during Halloween time? So I just tried to draw a Christmas version of Halloween. So there's Christmas lights everywhere. and music and presence and stuff, you know. And so like try to really get a consistent color scheme that was unified, that built around this idea of it feeling like Christmas at Halloween time. That's never said explicitly in the game, but that visually, that's what I was going for. And it worked. And unfortunately, it worked so well, they handed it off to other people and then put me back on Wumpa League or whatever. So, Jonesy says, feels like it's harder to compare productions that consistently change crews than one man's work. Star Wars will look and feel different every time you have at least some sort of ground-based in your... Yes and no. There should be a consistent design philosophy across at least a particular story or trilogy. I think Star Wars should always feel like a used universe, even if it's super clean, like on Coruscant where there's money, right? It should feel like it's been lived in just by high society. When Star Wars doesn't work for me is when it feels like cheap ABC television. So that's very difficult. And I think that means that you need to root the core of Star Wars in the 70s and the 60s in terms of some of its core design fundamentals. And then you can branch out from there. But if you go back to the main core galaxy, that should be rooted in the 70s. And I say 60s because if you look at like the design of the Imperial stuff in Andor, the Coruscant and the Imperial stuff, there's a lot of that stuff that were in 1960s malls and 60s design, which I think works really well. It's the THX 1138 feel, you know. But in terms of an auteur one person's art thing, I mean, you could say it's easier. Sometimes it's harder because you got no one to bounce ideas off of. I mean, I'm on my own, man. You know, like in an art department, you could put up ideas in art meetings, and then another group puts it all on the wall with 20, you know, a dozen other artists, and then they sort of build a consensus out of that. When you're on your own, you got to make those decisions on your own. Which is why I told you, it's why when I see a movie like Rise of Skywalker being led by J.J. Abrams, I could tell they just couldn't, that dude could not make a real decision. So it's like one of everything. So we got this and we got this and we got that. Make a decision. Stick with it. Like, if I were going to design a new Imperial like substitute, I would have gone way more into the samurai look with them versus just like an iPhone cleaner looking of the Empire, cleaner version looking of the Empire. It's not different enough. But if they had added a bit more of that into there, I think you could have built something new. You know? Yeah, I mean, look at Fallout. If you look at Fallout, Fallout has somewhere between the Dark Knight and the 1960s. I mean, Dead Reckoning, I think it's great. Certainly feels like a Spielberg film from 1989, 1991. I think McQuarrie even went out and said it's doing that Lucas Spielberg thing in that movie. But if you look at Fallout, man, the look of that, I would have done 3 films with that look. I would not have changed it right away. I thought that was I love Dead Reckoning, but that was a mistake. And I've been consistent about that since, you know, if you go look at my review with Jason, I said that then, I'm saying it now, you know? And I saw that movie 7 times in the theater. So, whatever. But then, you know, you get to like Mon Mothma's apartment and it has that Art Deco stuff from the 30s and a little bit of Japanese in there wrapped around the brutalist look of Coruscant, making Coruscant look more brutalist, like, you know, communist architecture from the 60s. Smart. Super smart. So, do you need to set Bond in the 60s? No. I would love to see that. I hear that they're never going to do that because um, the funding of the Bond films is based on the funding of the Bond films based on new cars, you know. Um, but you can give it a 60s feel set. Look at Fallout. Fallout did it, you know. So yeah, I would have done the 8 and 9 in the Fallout style. I don't really. I this is one of the few times I disagree with Christopher McQuarrie, and yeah. I mean, the Mission Impossible comes from the '60s. Like, I just thought they finally figured out a look, and he just abandoned it. Each one needs to have its own. No, 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 no. Rules are meant to be broke. Because it's funny. Initially, he said he couldn't. You know, he told Tom he couldn't direct a second Mission Impossible film because they hadn't ever had a guy direct two. And Tom goes, "Well, who made those rules up?" You know, and then McQuarrie coming in with it, everyone needs to look different. I'm like, I don't think so. I think you should have built this visual narrative. I don't want the Batman to ditch Greg Fraser's cinematography on the Batman 2, right? Well, it needs a new look, so everyone's totally different. That would be a colossal mistake. Batman Returns suffered from this too. It moved away from the look of the first film, which was closer to Aliens, and it did something that was closer to. They moved it to L.A. and it looked more like Edward Scissorhands, you know, and it threw people off, man. I mean, people now can, you know, try to rewrite history on that, but cartoony was the look. You know, look more cartoony. I mean, now, is it a good look? Sure, but they had a look in the first one, and they're clearly different. Like I said, the first one looks closer to Aliens. The matter of fact, they even shot the Axis Chemical plant is literally from the Aliens. It's the same one where the ATV is going down that path and Ripley's driving it. Same spot. But they moved it from Pinewood to LA because Tim Burton didn't want to go overseas, and it just didn't have the same look. Done with that. Making good time on this page. Tennessee was a bit impressed with Brad Bird's Ghost Profiles, and he mostly experienced from. He also had a good team. He had a good team. I mean, Macquarie came in and helped with that script. You know, like, he had a limited amount of time. He went into extensive conversations about that. If you go to Jeff Goldsmith's Q&A, type in Macquarie, you can find his interviews, and also on Light the Fuse. Light the Fuse is a great podcast. It's now the official Mission Impossible podcast, but it wasn't before. It was an unofficial thing these guys were just doing. But yeah, he's gone into great detail on how he helped out there. But Brad Bird was fantastic in conjuring up the Burj Khalifa whatever sequence, you know. The one sequence I didn't think worked as well as it could have was the hover thing. It turned out to be funny, but it looked a little ridiculous, you know. But then he went off. He turned down Star Wars and did Tomorrowland. I really wish he had done Star Wars. If Brad Bird had hooked up with Michael Arndt, we'd be looking at a whole different sequel trilogy. Michael Arndt was really I mean, in that initial Force Awakens screenplay, according to Jason, the whole sequence from Bloodlines where the whole universe finds out that Darth Vader was Luke and Leia's parents was the basis for that script. That was what ripped everyone apart. And it's the only storyline that makes sense to me. Why JJ deleted that, I'll never know. So, the alternate universe in which that script, or at least all that was, you know, something that Brad Bird then came in and helped, you know, realize to fruition, we're talking about a whole different ballgame there, you know? And if they had given him 2 to 3 years per film to finish it versus trying to get it done every 18 months, also, you know? But he's off making a Mission Impossible 3 after Ray Gun, so that's not going to happen. P3. That's done. And then I have panel 4. And then I gotta finish all the rain. I added rain into the 5th issue. And normally in comics these days they just do that in color. But I refuse to leave that up to the colorist alone. Like, I asked the colorist to add in backup rain, you know? But I like to get all the actual main drops drawn in and layered so they can all be trapped properly. And then that also means I draw the bloops on the drips on the ground, you know, which makes everything muddy. So, and it adds some work. Rain always adds work. No way around that. But right now, Star Wars has a studio problem. The studio is the problem. Not just Kathleen Kennedy. The whole crew. They're making Hallmark movies. Filoni, all these people. I can really just tell. And it's like it needs attitude. It needs punch. You can see the same thing at Amazon with the Lord of the Rings. They've turned those into Hallmark bits too. It's corny. It's not cool. It's corny. You know? And I get like people like, but I like it. Okay, great. I dare you to make more of it. See where it goes. You know? Just like when they kept making really bad Transformers films. Eventually, it hit a zenith where you can't ever seem to recover from it, you know? People lose brand confidence. Really difficult to get that back. Really difficult. So I'm like, I just say, go ahead, dude. Make more of it. Because it's the only real way they're going to learn. Yeah. Go full stupid. Bring back Jar Jar. I want to see all the Jar Jar fans come out and see that movie. You know? Because I worked on that 3D... I worked on the shirts for the 3D movie re-release. You know how many people saw that film? Nobody. Where were they then? They were in their 30s. Where were they? They were nowhere. Make the shit cool. You make it cool, everyone's gonna show up. You make it corny, it's diminishing returns. Diminishing returns. Hey, what's up, Psycho? All right, let's get panel 4 done. What time is it? I'm gonna do another 15-20 minutes, guys, and then I'm gonna roll. But I'll be back on tomorrow morning with some more sketches at breakfast. And I'll be doing NDA during the day. If Roman wants to come on at night, I'll do a night NDA. Because that's when Uncle Jerk is available. If he wants to do... If he's available, then we'll do a night NDA. If he's not available, then... I will just work alone for 3 hours because I do my whole I do my house cleanup and then my workout, and then I put in another 3 hours at night. So if he wants to, great. Otherwise, most of you folks hang out during the day anyway. So. And as soon as Brandon gets a regular schedule, we can start doing Sketchcraft Shoutout, which is going to be a new thing we do where it's just going to be what the comics and books was, where we were doing, like, you know, art books and stuff, but we're going to be focusing on the art, not stories and stuff. So that'll be fun. We got new graphics for that, and I plan on moving all of that stuff over. I plan on moving all that stuff over to its own channel as well. But I need Brandon to be consistent. He keeps telling me, oh, and then nothing. So, otherwise, I guess I'll just have to do it on my own. You know? It's never as fun. But Steven wants to do some of that with me. I'll have to check with him. It's always fun to bounce off a conversation when you're looking at art, though, you know? But if I do it on my own, I'll have to do it on my own. You know, that's fine. And then I'll get to doing some art tips and stuff again when whenever I'm done with the book. I just can't deal with that right now. Jonesy, Star Wars should stop the Hallmark. Instead, inject hundreds of millions into rare release films and make movie quality productions that won't happen until they have an effed up strategy. I don't know, man. You know, they have talent. They have Gilroy, not just Tony Gilroy, but his brothers. I mean, Dan Gilroy is an accomplished filmmaker. He could direct a Star Wars film. I'd put them in charge. They get it. But I get Tony Gilroy's pushing 70. They just don't have a good internal barometer, man. And I'm sorry, but trusting the George Lucas, Filoni didn't learn from George Lucas from the 70s. He learned from George Lucas after the prequels. Bad idea. Bad idea. I'm not saying delete those films. They are what they are. But if you lean into that, that's how you end up with the Acolyte. That's how you end up with Kenobi. Corny stuff. So you need fun, adventurous, dangerous, you know, and I don't think there's an easy solution for this. They have the money, the talent, the resources, but do they have the vision? Do they have the vision? Don't know. I mean, they haven't even put a good space battle in a Star Wars movie since Rogue One, you know? It's like, I don't know, man, you know? I'm not a fan of Favreau's writing, so I don't have a whole lot of hope for this next Mandalorian movie. We'll see, man. If it's dope, I'll come over here and go, hey, it was dope. You know, I always felt they should have made a Mando movie, but I thought they should have made that after season 2. You know, but they didn't. So now we're in this weird thing where the Mando movie is going to be like, not really. I don't know what I mean. It's going to be season 4's budget is going toward the movie. So it's a $120 million Star Wars film. You can say, it's great, they're making it on a budget. I'm like, yeah, but Star Wars should be pushing the envelope. Star Wars, why do they keep trying to find a way to make Star Wars on a budget, but then they keep spending $200 million or $300 million on an Indiana Jones film? You know? Star Wars should be like an event. But they're trying to turn it in, you know, they've tried to turn it into the Marvel method. Not a good idea. You know? James Cameron didn't turn Avatar into the Marvel method, and somehow he pumps out $2.5 billion movies, $2 billion plus movies twice. You know? And apparently with films everyone hates. So let's just say if Star Wars was more of an event and it pushed the visual effects and gave you a giant cinematic experience, more people would go. They'd make their money back. They would have made $4 billion in 2 films, like Avatar. That's not even counting the merch. Three more minutes. All right. I'm going to wrap the stream up right here. It's a good spot. I want to thank everyone for hanging out today. All the lurkers and the people who gave likes. Likes and comments are the only thing that the algorithm cares about, folks. That's it. Comments even more than likes these days. So if you can leave a comment on the Facebook, on the YouTube, that would be helpful. Most of you won't, and I understand. Just letting you know that's how it works, folks. I'll be back on tomorrow. Hang out with you all then. Peace.